If I pick up on the point you made about the state and the local governments and then this constituency project,
yes.
You know, there are those who have said, look, if we have all tiers of government playing their role, if we know what they're budgeting, what exactly is going on, that will go a long way. But is that likely to address the challenge of this constituency project if local governments and states were functioning properly, for instance?
You see, it will address it, but again, it's about the electoral process and the psychology of an average voter. I mean, I have relations who are politicians. When they go to their constituencies, it's not about the beauty of your contribution to debate in the National Assembly, or how much grammar you are speaking in the National Assembly, or how much motions you have moved, or how much bills you have passed. These are national issues. They want to see something localized within their community. That is why you see many of them struggling to do empowerment, buying tricycles, buying sewing machines, you know, because of the electoral value. Right. Those things even have bigger electoral value than your contribution to debate in the National Assembly.
You think that has come to stay?
Of course, I think so. Because, I mean, you are talking about what will deliver the votes at the end of the day. It's not the quality of your contribution, unfortunately though, on the floor of the house that will deliver the votes to you. Yeah. It is what the villagers can see. What roads have you built for them? Of course, as a legislator, you are not in charge of roads. You are not in charge of providing hospitals. But you can only influence those in the ministries, in the executive, say, okay, please, can you put this project so that when you go back to your constituency, you can beat your chest and say, okay, I'm the one that brought this.
Let me pick on this point that you raised, that it's a 100 trillion naira economy, and we're grappling with just 7.4 trillion naira for the budget, and that can barely take us anywhere. How do we begin to bridge that gap? For instance, say if we want to focus, a government wants to focus on infrastructure development over the next 10 years, how do they balance up the funds needed to do that?
You see, the truth is that the government can only do so much. And that is where the role of private sector and the role of private capital is very important. And we need to realize that. I mean, take all the critical sectors of the economy. How much government investment do you find there? Let's even start from the media. Look at the electronic media, the print media. What is the percentage of government investment? That space now is dominated almost 80% by private investors. Take the health sector. We have more private hospitals than public hospitals. Take the education sector. We have more private institutions than public institutions. Take the ICT sector. It's almost 100% private sector. Take the airlines, 100% private sector. So why I'm saying this is that what is most important is to create the environment for more private investment to come into this economy, whether domestic or foreign. That is what will make a sustainable, a long-lasting difference. When we talk about a 2.5 trillion naira capital budget, I mean, how much can that deliver? How many roads can that build? Can that build railways?
If I follow up on that, because we'll come back to this point of yours, where, because we had a guest who spoke about the debt servicing component, how states, I mean, the federal government or companies, private firms here, and some of them have folded up because government don't pay when they ought to. So the debt service component here in the budget, does that in any way, to what extent do you think it will address some of these challenges?
Well, the issue about the debt service component first is disproportionate. It's almost about 35% of government revenue, which is also it's not a healthy thing. It's not a sustainable thing. So when we talk about sustainability of our debt profile, that is part of the issues. How much is the entire capital budget in this budget and subsequent budget?
Okay.
Just slightly over 2 trillion. Debt service is 1.8 trillion. And let me also emphasize this. What we see in the budget for debt service is more for what we call securitized debts. That is servicing these treasury bills and federal government bonds. Most times, the debts owed to contractors are not even sufficiently provided for. That is why in the private sector, there are many businesses that will never touch a government business. Because many of them have gone bankrupt.
But why?
You will not be paid. Sometimes running to 1, 2, 3, 4 years.
Wow.
Interest will not be paid. You can't take them to court. You have to be running after the finance director. It's a big problem for us in the private sector. And it's not just at the federal level. At the states.
So why is it?
Even if there is a change of a commissioner, or a change of government, or the minister changes, God help you if you are paid for what you have done.
Is legislation able to address this?
If you have legislation, who will enforce it? The worst that can happen is that you go to court. Can you take government to court and hope to get out of that?
But you can't take government to court.
You can take government, but you know what the court system is.
Yeah.
Many people have become bankrupt because they did they did business with government.
But doesn't the Public Procurement Act address this?
Well, I don't know to what extent, but again, it is one thing to have something in the books. It's another thing for it to be operational. Well, I listened to, one of the ministers was saying that I think it was Ministry of Works, Power and Housing, where the minister was saying that they accumulated debt of over ₦1 trillion to contractors. So how do you want those ones to survive? Many of them have borrowed money to execute some of these contracts.
Bank loans, even.
Bank loans. I know what it is to take a bank loan in this economy. It's a big nightmare. Because of the interest rate, because of the harassment you suffer. Many of them have lost the properties they pledged as collateral. So it's a big issue that is not sufficiently addressed.
Okay. Let's ask the mundane questions now. Yes. See, for instance, they say, okay, the budget has been released. Now, the man on the street wants to know what's in it for him. For instance, you want to know what the vulcanizer who fixes the tires gets. You want to see what the market woman thinks about the budget. In all of this, how would you culminate the thinking of the people concerning budgets that have been released, not just this one, but budgets over the years?
You see, the thing is that we need to moderate our expectations from the federal government budget. You know, we made the point earlier. When people talk about, there's so much talk about federal government budget, as if that is the only budget that runs the economy. The state government budgets, the local government budget are supposed to impact the organizer, the roadside, all these people, even more than the federal budget. They account for close to 60% of the resources of the country. But the level of accountability is very weak. The level of engagement is so weak. All these debates about federal government budget, how many discussions do we have around state government budgets? So we need to moderate expectations. And sometimes even when the government officials come and say, okay, we have this budget, it's going to improve the economy, it's going to fix infrastructure. Look at the deficit. The deficit is so huge that this cannot make a material effect. Yeah. But we need to also learn to not to raise expectations of the people I see. All the budgets, what has been the outcome? That is just the point just made.